Okay, so let us resume to the session. So for this part, we asked Arisa Aima-san and then Kurihara-san to chair the session and facilitate discussions. Okay, so please.
Okay, thank you, Doya Sensei. So for the latter half of this session, I would like to, me and the Kurihara Sensei would moderate the session. Well, so we'll start with Ida-san, the Minister of Internal Affairs and Communication, Japan, to start his discussion. And oh yeah, so do you have some slides with you? Oh, maybe so then, please, on the stage, and the floor is yours.
Okay, once again. So thank you very much, Emma Sensei, for the kind introduction, and good afternoon to everybody in the room, and also good morning, good afternoon, good evening to online participants, depending on the where you are. My name is Yoichi IIDA, the government official at the Japanese Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications, and I'm serving as the chair at the Committee on Digital Policy at OECD, and also I served as a chair at the Hiroshima AI Process Working Group last year. So it is my great pleasure to share what we did last year, what we wanted to do, and what we are going to do now. So as many of you know very well, what happened around the beginning of last year. We saw ChatGPT prototype released near the end of 2022 and followed by official release of ChatGPT 4. And this gave a great surprise to the world. And people were talking about, about the high performance, but at the same time, people were talking about the risks and the challenges brought by this powerful new technology. And last year was the year for Japanese government to take the presidency of G7 rotating presidency. And we hosted, so thank you very much. Machines are always difficult to handle, and it is always very difficult for me to work without understanding everything and just pretending, I understand everything. So back to the discussion. Last year, we hosted G7 meetings, including Hiroshima Summit. And also prior to the Hiroshima Summit, we also hosted the ministerial meeting among digital and technology ministers at the end of April. And what happened was the ministers of digital policy agreed to continuously work on the governance framework for generative AI, including ChatGPT and others. And then they passed a message to the leaders when leaders gathered in Hiroshima in May. And the leaders welcomed the decision by the ministers, and they gave the name of Hiroshima AI Process to the work. So that was the beginning of Hiroshima Process. And before I jump into the introduction of the content of Hiroshima AI Process, let me briefly go back to the previous work on a discussion on AI principles over the last probably nearly 10 years. Actually, Japan was one of the first countries who proposed international discussion on AI governance. It happened in 2016 when Japan took the previous round G7 presidency. We hosted ICT Ministers meeting in Takamatsu, and we proposed international discussion on AI principles at that moment, but generally governance. Because 2016, as many of you remember, it was a time people were talking about the third AI boom, and we saw, many people are talking about a lot of opportunities and benefits, brought by machine learning and deep learning and other new AI technologies. But at the same time, even more people were talking about fears and scarcity, and including the singularity or loss of jobs and unclarity, black box, whatever. So we thought we may need, government needs to provide some guardrail without giving too much restriction on research and development or innovation, so that we could make best use of this powerful technology. At that time, we didn't recognize any piece, anything about the generative AI or new type of AI models, but still, we saw a lot of opportunities coming up from this technology. And if you look at the Japanese society, we need to make use of this type of innovation to vitalize the society. We have a decreasing number of population. We have rapidly aging population. We have shrinking economy. So we definitely need to make use of innovation. So we proposed at G7, and this proposal was succeeded by Italian presidency and Canadian presidency. So discussion at the G7 led to the launch of global partnership on AI in the year 2020. At the same time, we wanted to make best use of professional expertise of international experts in this field. And we invited OECD to launch AI work in their committee. So OECD started the AI discussion in the year 2017, and they reached a consensus on the first international agreement on AI principles in the year 2019. And this was also copied when we discussed G20 AI principles on the occasion of OSAKA Summit in the same year. So around 2019 and 2020, we saw a lot of coordinated consensus on international governance on AI. And we hoped that a kind of harmonized and coherent governance mechanism could be established across jurisdictions. But very soon, we saw different approaches started. Just like EU started the discussion on AI Act in 2021, and other countries and the government and also the other organizations started talking about the legally binding instrument and the other approaches. So having this, okay, this is just showing the OECD AI principles, as you very well know. And these principles are also updated this year. So against this background, we wanted in the G7 discussion to reconfirm the importance of harmonized, coherent governance environment. And we proposed to agree on the concept of interoperability between AI governance frameworks, including legally binding regulatory environment. So G7 discussed and agreed on the importance of interoperability. And this is a kind of a basis for our discussion when we started the discussion on governance on generative AI itself, because we recognize G7 needs to show the coherent and harmonized approaches on AI technology to rest of the world, so that we can guide the world into a harmonized and coherent situation with interoperable governance frameworks. So this is what we discussed before April, and in May, when leaders gathered, they agreed on launch of Hiroshima process. So we launched Hiroshima process working group at the end of May. And then we had actually a very intensive discussion, in particular from September to December. We had probably more than 30 or 40 online sessions. My colleagues counted how many hours we spent, and it exceeded 100. And so he stopped counting. But actually, we did a very good discussion. And at the end of October, we agreed on international guiding principles and the international code of conduct, both for organizations who develop AI and advanced AI systems. Advanced AI systems, what does this mean? We started talking about the generative AI, and people said, probably we may include foundation models. And other people say, there can be more new types of AI, which are also very powerful and give a lot of impact on society. So we just try to avoid making a definition and try to be more inclusive in target systems. So advanced AI systems doesn't have clear definition, but this is talking about the very powerful and advanced AI systems in general. So there is some unclarity, but we call it flexibility. And then Hiroshima process continued until December, and we agreed on a comprehensive policy framework, which I will briefly introduce after this. And then Hiroshima process is succeeded by Italian presidency this year. And what we are doing is how we can establish a monitoring mechanism when the organizations, including AI companies, want to implement individual items in code of conduct, then they may want to announce, their AI systems are based on or following the code of conduct of Hiroshima process. Then we may need to verify, or we may need to know how and what they are doing. So we are discussing a monitoring mechanism, but this is based on a voluntary reporting system by organizations and how we can collect information and how we can check the things are going well. We also discussed under Italian presidency, it is very important to invite other countries, other jurisdictions, and other stakeholders to join together and work together to implement the Hiroshima process instruments. And that is the basic idea for Hiroshima Process Friends Group, which I also briefly introduce later. So now, the comprehensive framework is composed of 4 elements. One is OECD's analytical report on opportunities and risks brought by generative AI, which put a basis for our work discussion. And number 2 and number 3 are guiding principles and code of conduct, which I introduce a little bit more in depth after this. And number 4 is project-based cooperation. This is the idea, we are always talking about the regulation or some guardrail, but there can be some technological solutions for mitigation of risks and challenges brought by the technology. So there may be a lot of benefit to encourage and support technological experts in developing such technological solutions against, for example, disinformation or lack of transparency and the protection of intellectual property. So we are also going to start some project under a global challenge project led by OECD and IEEE. And also we are nearly launching the Tokyo Center under GPay framework, where we will support experts to promote such a project. So let me go on to the Hiroshima guiding principles. In many cases, by the way, in many cases, we say a hype. Hiroshima AI process is a little bit long, so we often say hype and may sound exciting. I don't know, but so hype guiding principle includes 12 elements. And it started with 11 elements when we agreed on guiding principles for organizations who develop advanced AI systems. And we added the last item after November, and I just want to briefly touch upon that. But the first set of 2 elements are talking about the risk management. So these elements are encouraging organizations and companies to make risk assessment and try to identify the risks in your AI systems and to take appropriate measures against it. And number 2 is talking about the same thing after, please do that even after the deployment of the system or marketplacing. And then if you find any vulnerabilities or incident, please take appropriate measures. That's the first set of elements. And the second set of elements are talking about the information sharing and the disclosure. So number 3 is talking about the information sharing on the AI system's capability. What is the purpose of the AI system developed, and what is the limitations of the capability in, for the AI system, and how the users should make use of that AI systems according to the original purpose. Otherwise, you know, users may misuse or abuse the AI systems, and we want to avoid by sharing adequate information across all AI actors. And number 2 is talking about also information sharing in the case of incident. Don't hide it, but share it and just take countermeasures against it jointly across different stakeholders. And number 3 is information disclosure, such as privacy protection policy for IT service providers. So in the case of AI developers, we encourage them to elaborate and disclose their AI risk governance policy as a company or organization. Next set of items are a little more technological things. And the number 6 is talking about security, including cyber security or physical security or even the insider threat. This encourage organizations to make adequate investment and take appropriate measures. Number 7 is talking about the countermeasures. This is the what I talked about as a technological solution. So maybe people were talking about watermarking or other data provenance technologies, and these technologies are not well established yet, but we encourage organizations to develop and deploy such technology so that those technology can help users to identify the AI generated content and to understand they are working with AI. And number 7 is more general and encourage organizations to prioritize investment in effective mitigation measures to respond to risk. And number 9 is talking about more positive aspect. So we always talk about the risks and the challenges, but sometimes we need to talk about the opportunities, and we encourage organizations to prioritize development of AI systems to contribute to the world great challenges, including climate change and the pandemic and others. So this is also very important aspect in Guardrail. And the number 10 is talking about the number 7 technology. So we are not talking about the algorithm standardization, but this encourage organizations to develop such technological solutions and also standardize and make the use of such technology across different jurisdictions and countries. And number 11 is talking about data management, about input data for training, and this encourage organizations to make adequate protections against data breaches and personal data infringement. So these are the original 11 items. And after we concluded our discussion on guiding principles for developers, Japan insisted to add another element because as Mr. Hickin talked about co-governance or across developers and deployers, we also believe, even the users, including consumers, have some responsibility in promoting safe, secure, and trustworthy AI ecosystem, because they need to know what they are doing with AI systems, they need to understand AI systems sometimes may make mistakes, and they need to understand, they are also responsible in sharing the information when they find some vulnerabilities or incident, so that everybody can work together to respond to such vulnerabilities and the risks jointly. And that is the concept of co-governance, and that is one of the main messages in Hiroshima process from the Japanese government. So these are the code of conduct which are presenting the more granular practical elements of guiding principles. But I avoid going with individual elements. I hope you can see the slides after the talk. And this is what we agreed on the Italian presidency in March. So we agreed to continue our work, and we have two major elements. One is monitoring mechanism, as I explained, and also the other is expanding the partners beyond the G7, of course, and to OECD members, GPA members, and even beyond, so that we could establish some global governance framework across the world. So this is a HYPE Friends Group, which was launched in the beginning of May. And we also worked with OECD in updating the OECD AI principles. So they reflected a lot of elements from the discussion of HYPE, and actually some of the elements are literally reflected in the content. And actually more than, at that moment, 49, and at this moment, more than 50 countries and the region are joining to promote Hiroshima process. And we are sharing the same concept, the same understanding, and we promote the safe, secure, and trustworthy AI ecosystem around the world. But we, at the same time, recognize practical approaches, including legally binding frameworks, are totally up to the discretion of individual government and jurisdictions. So some countries feel it is necessary to introduce legally binding system. Some countries may not find it necessary. So, but we hope interoperability is ensured and promoted, and we want to understand what other jurisdictions are doing and how we could adopt to other jurisdictions. So this is the list of the members of the Friends Group, and you may have heard about the Puglia Summit in Italy, and in the summit, the leaders again discussed AI, and they discussed the Hiroshima process. they emphasized the importance to promote monitoring mechanism discussion. And also they agreed on, at the bottom of the page, they agreed on developing a brand for Hiroshima Process Code of Conduct, which we don't know what yet. So we will discuss, but this should be a kind of incentive for organizations and companies to follow Code of Conduct and demonstrate their AI systems are safe and secure following the Hiroshima process framework. So we will keep working on it, and I hope this will put a basis for safe, secure, and trustworthy global AI governance for all relevant AI actors. So thank you very much, and if there is any question, happy to take.
Thank you, Ida-san. So maybe we have just one or two quick questions if you have, or maybe the next Murakami-san's presentation is also about like the Japanese, the AI strategy. So maybe we can just have the question together after Murakami-san. But if you have some kind of question that you wanted to clarify at this moment.
Just fast. Thank you very much. This was very interesting. I wanted to go to the point 12 of hype. You said it was specifically Japanese contribution and that this was a Japanese concept, but I couldn't get it because I don't speak Japanese and it wasn't on the slide. If you could just, so this is a clarification question, and the reason why I'm so interested in that is that I'm a philosopher, I'm a French philosopher, and I had the feeling that this was very close to something that in philosophy we call relational responsibility. So could you please just tell me what is the concept? And maybe during the discussion I can come back on relational responsibility.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. And yes, in the beginning of the discussion, Japanese government proposed the guiding principle to be, classified as for developers, deployers, service providers, business users, but we found, distinguishing the individual actors, it would be very difficult and time consuming. So first, G7 started the discussion focusing on AI developers. And through the discussion near the end, everybody found, all these 11 items are more or less applicable to other AI actors, including deployers and users, by reading by transforming a little bit according to their positions and their way of thinking. But Japan wanted to emphasize, there is a responsibility for even end users to contribute to in maintaining and promoting a safe, secure AI ecosystem by sharing the information or understanding AI systems and avoiding actions and abuses. So that is the idea, and that is why we talk about literacy and awareness raising and education, and also we talked about information sharing. And so this is an additional element after we agreed on principles for AI developers, and we wanted to expand this guiding principles for addressed to all AI actors.
Thank you very much. Maybe we could continue this discussion while in the debate session, discussion session. So thank you very much, Ida-san.